Good evening, Hyperspinners. Today we're going to be talking about ambient lighting syncing up with Hyperspin, so get ready. Alright, so I'm going to just kind of watch the preview here of the ambient lighting and the panel itself. It kind of is going crazy. You can see there's under lighting there, and then off to the sides you can see that it's essentially syncing to Hyperspin's calling system. So right now it's on the intro. It's a little more spastic, I guess, at the moment in person versus than what's in the video, but you've got a couple options here. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the preview here, and you'll kind of see some of this and how it works. Let's see if I can select a system here. And so there you go. So I just ended up selecting something from the wheel, and the lights on the back of the cabinet are sort of rolling, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this. Let's see if we can capture some of this. And there's various modes. And this is all being controlled by a Arduino. Special thanks go to Mr. Griggs on Facebook. You can see there's, I've got the lighting. Maybe this is a better representation of what I'm actually seeing, but you can see the under lighting there is in red. Right now it's a solid red, and you see it's kind of glowing, you know, throughout the side of the cabinet there. But I'm gonna go ahead and I don't know, select one of these games here, and we'll just go sunset override. Yeah. Okay, so underneath, it's starting to select the game, and you can kind of see the lights are kind of rolling back and forth, and that is really it. I mean, we are talking about ambient lighting, nothing terribly special, but it is pretty cool to have that sync up with the Hyperspin calling system, which is happening all behind the scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights on, and I'll show you guys how to wire up this Arduino. I had a lot of trial and error, and lo and behold, what you're going to want to do is not get the cheap Chinese knockoffs. I melted a breadboard, and two, on the second take, I don't know what happened, but the board started smoking. So I'm sure it all had something to do with the voltage and whatnot, but I just ended up going with the Arduino itself, and I did not have any problems. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I did there and how I attached these, basically the RGB strip. Basically, there was no sort of adhesive that I could find that would actually make these, you know, ropes here actually stick to the cabinet. So, found a clever way, again, by Mr. Griggs on, you know, the scene here, and I will share what we got here. We've got an application that, well, we've got a couple applications that are running behind the scenes, and we're using EDS to basically control Hyperspin and you know, when these lights should be going off. So pretty cool in person. It's hard to capture you know, via video, but let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I've opened up the cabinet here, and the things that I've used is this LED, well, it's an RGB strip, and this is the wrapping here. Basically, we're looking at WS2812B LED strip. What's unique here is the actual strip itself. You know, each one of these RGBs that are on here have like a little brain here. Basically, you can see there's a little line on the copper wire here, and what that means is you can cut along that line, and it will still complete that circuit. So each one of those little dots light bulbs are controlled individually by the Arduino, so that's how we can get these different patterns here. So this is the RGB strip that I'm using, and I can put the link in the description below. I also used a resistor, so this is going to be just to control the power, if you will, from the Arduino to the RGB strip. I'm using a couple zip ties. This is the only way that I could find that was sufficient in, getting these, RGB strips to actually stick to something. And what I've got here is this little anchor here, and there's a little adhesive on the back of it, and you can see there's a little slot where you can put a zip tie in, and then I just attached the zip tie to the anchor. And I don't know where here. This might be the best one to look at here. You can see there she is. The zip tie is just holding on to the strip itself, to the anchor. And then last but not least, we've got the Arduino as a whole. It's the Arduino Uno, and that is what worked best for me. So there she is. And I'll put the link in the description below. So I also have a couple basically power cables. Basically, there's nothing fancy about these. They're just different colors, and what we're doing is we're just attaching the ground and the voltage in the appropriate pins, and these little pins I just slapped right into the I'm going to call it the breadboard on the Arduino, even though it's not really the breadboard, but let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. So you can see there's the strip here, and from there was a couple cords here, and all I'm going to do is put the red wire, which is the voltage, and let's see, and it's on 5 volts. Zoom in here a little bit so you can see it. And then same with the red wire here, or sorry, the orange wire. That's the ground, so I just put that in the ground. And then we've got the green wire, so the green is where I've added the resistance to that. So you can see there, I just took the wire, wrapped it around the copper of that resistant band there, and then I stuck the other end. Let's see if I can move this a little bit. I stuck the other end of the green wire into there she is, into slot 8. So I don't think it matters what slot you end up putting the green wire in, as long as you just have the voltage on the 5 volt. That's really what's going to matter. Otherwise, you'll burn out one of your bulbs, which I did one time. And what I ended up doing is I just saw that one of these lights were turned on, but nothing else was. So I just clipped the line on that copper and took out, that one that was lit up. That just told me that that was a bad bulb, and everything worked after that. So a lot of trial and error, but hopefully that helps you guys if you have that issue. But what I did is I just took the strip here, and I went all around the edges of the inside of the cabinet, and then I just went right through the bottom where I've got a hole where the basically wires come out of my cabinet. And then I just slapped a lot of these different anchors along the bottom of the cabinet. And what I try to do is I prepped this ahead of time. I put these anchors down, and I put the zip ties in, and I just didn't tie them. And I just slowly went along the bottom, stuck it, and then I very patiently, slid the RGB strip in the zip ties. So that's how I did it. I'll kind of zoom around the back here so you can actually see what this is kind of looking like on the back end here. But you can see I just have running along the side of the T-molding, and yeah, that's really it. So I've got 2 or 3 on the very back that have the anchors, which you can see right there. And I ran all those along the bottom. See, let's see, and then right up to the top here. So it's pretty cool for what it is. We'll talk through the software in a bit, and what I also have are these little little extensions here, so that allows me to do more of a right angle on these. So you can see that up here, all I did was cut along the copper wire here, which is here. And that allowed me to cut it and then just basically use these joints here. So that is a freestanding wire up at the top, and I just cut that. So let's go and look into the nitty-gritty and how it all works on the software side. But let me know if you guys have questions. It was definitely worth the project. Relatively cheap as a whole, but it adds a lot to your system. So let's go ahead and get that set up, and we'll talk through that. All right, now for the software, got Arduino here. And what I'll do is put this on the MU Movies FTP just as is, so you've got everything ready to go. But the things that we care about are under libraries. There's a fast LED folder that basically I had to add and get all this code here, and then we're just basically running that. So I'm going to go ahead and talk through this a little bit. So I open the Arduino app, and this is the script that Mr. Griggs had created. You can see I had to put in pin 8 because that's what my Arduino is set to. That's what that green wire was set on. And I had to put the number of LEDs that I have. I've got a total of, I think I had a 300 strip, but with a lot of trial and error, I ended up snipping out 10 of them. And yeah, here we are. So that's all that needs to be changed here. And throughout this code, what you'll find are different modes. So we'll be talking about these 12 different modes here and how to get those things activated on Hyperspin calling system. And what you'll find is throughout, you'll find void mode 1, 2, and 3. And these are the different colors. So as I was kind of showing you earlier, I had a couple of things happening on the ambient lighting. I think one of the instances it was red. If you don't like red, you can change the color using hex code. So I think in one of the instructions here, yeah, I've got, for example, if I wanted to change void mode 3, which is a specific mode, if I change these numbers at the end here, I will get a totally different color. So I put in the URL of where the HTML colors come from. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and we will look at how that works. Here's htmcolorcodes.com. And you'll find just basically a gradient here, and you can change the numbers here, or you can slide the slider here. And what we care about is the RGB. Those are the numbers that you'll end up changing in this order. So 28 is the first number, G is the middle number, and B is the last. But depending on the LED that you've got, or that strip, they might be backwards. The blue might be first. You'll have to play around with it. If you end up seeing green here, then you know that the red is the first number when you're testing. But I'll show you how to test the colors out. But let's get back to the Arduino itself. So once you have this script that I'll be including on the FTP, all you've got to do is make sure that you're hooked up for the first time. So the Arduino Uno is what I have, and it's on COM2. That by default is what showed up. And what you'll do is go to it's tools, and you'll go to the port. You'll find COM2 is already selected. If it's not, you need to select it. Your COM might be different, but
wherever you see the Arduino displayed, that's the COM that you want to select. And after that, you are ready to go. So I've also got Arduino Uno by default on the board, but that came as default when I plugged it all up. And that is that on the technicalities. So I'll have everything up and running for you guys on the FTP. So literally all you got to do is open this, change the number of LEDs and the pin number. And once you do that, just click verify here and then upload. And once you've uploaded, I've already done this, I'm not going to go ahead and do it again, but once you push upload, you're going to see a lot of text happen below here, and then it'll basically thank you and congratulate you for updating your script. And this is what controls the colors of your RGB. So I'm going to go ahead and close the Arduino bit here, because that's all you've got to do there. I'll include this folder, and all you'll have to do is open up that app and do what I just said. So now we've got the ambient lighting and Hyperspin. So I'm going to go into this other folder that I've named Arduino backlighting, and you'll find a number of XEs here. So each one of these XEs, if I were to click on them, the basically RGB will do a different sort of series of colors or pulses, and unfortunately I can't really show you at the same time, but the lights are flashing as I'm going through here. So O2 is lights out, so that's when you want the lights to turn off. And I've got a instruction document which our Mr. Griggs had also kindly created as well. We had been talking back and forth on this project for some time, and it finally came to be here. So it's pretty awesome here. He's got great detail on how to use this thing, but again, walking through this, you should be good to go. He just spot checking this. It looks like pin 6 is the one that he used. So as you see, it does not matter what pin you end up using. Just use the one that ends up working for you. Any pin will do. So I'm going to go ahead and close the instruction bit out. The color instructions is the URL that we were just talking about in the example there. But that is really it. The XEs here are what control the different pulses in Hyperspin based on what's called, when you're actually selecting a game. And you'll just place this in a folder, and now finally what we've got to do is get to the EDS application that will actually control the sync process between the Arduino and Hyperspin. So these XEs again are just different pulses and different colors essentially. What's going to be important is the number here. So you see all of my numbers end in 2. It's because I'm in COM 2. If I were to be in COM 4, for example, the last digit here would always be 4. So you'd see 44, you'd see 34, 24, but since I'm on COM 2, I've got 2s at the end. So just be mindful of that. You'll need to change those numbers based on the COM that you're in on the Arduino. That, I believe, is the only other caveat that I needed to mention here. So let's go and finish this thing off and get to EDS. So EDS is a calling program. Basically, the events that happen in Hyperspin will trigger different events. So I'm going to go ahead and open up HS Event Dispatcher System. I will put some links in the description below, but if you've got HyperMarquee, you're also familiar with this. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll on down here because you'll see the lights that I'm using. So all of these are the different XEs that I am using, and basically I just put in turn me on here for the Arduino. If I wanted to disable, I just click the check boxes here to disable it, but you'll want to make sure that everything is set up for CLI, and then just label accordingly. So I selected B2 because I like B2 the best, and I pushed the ellipse here, and then I went to find that B2 XE that we were just talking about. I also liked 82, or whatever case it is for your COM, but prefix 8, 22, 32, and then 82 again. So the open filters, so if you're familiar with how this is all set up, I probably shouldn't have clicked that filter there, but here we go. The filters and the closed filters are basically when these events will happen within Hyperspin. Here we go. So if I click on this, you'll see what that open filter 9 is. That's when I select the game. When I use 7, that's when I use the system select. When I use 1, I see the front end. So that's just when it's going to call for that specific pulse action and color. So just pick wisely, go through each one of those X's and watch the different color schemes and the pulsations and determine, where you want that. But these were the items that I ended up choosing, and there is no wrong answer. So that is setting up the Arduino backlighting. I know it's a little complex, and hopefully I got the job done and it wasn't too confusing, but at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe an hour of work, it pays in dividends. So I hope that helps you guys, and we will catch you next time.